What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. As always, this video is brought to you by NutriBio Supplements, Crystals, Bikinis, and Bio Longevity Labs. Check out the description for the codes that will get you discounts for all those sponsors. That will be in a link below. This is going to be a long Q&A video, so I'm going to do timestamps for this one as well. This one's probably going to be much longer even than the ones that I normally do, so if you're looking to kind of bounce around or you don't have the time to listen to the whole video, you could check out the timestamps. Got a lot of peptide questions, which is interesting. Something that I'm obviously pretty interested in. What do you think about ipamorelin, tesamorelin, and CJC 1295 no DAC as a stack for both size and fat loss? I think they're all garbage. I think they're all way overpriced, especially if a lot of times people are getting these through like med spas or hormone clinics, and the prices are just outrageous. What I would suggest is just getting real growth hormone, and that will give you a combination of both size and fat loss. A lot of times, especially if you know how to source for yourself, real HGH ends up being way, way cheaper than this combination of these shitty half-ass peptides. And then besides like the size and fat loss that just GH will get you, there's tons of other very effective fat loss peptides. The GLPs are great, specifically Retatrutide, SLU, PP332, MOTC, SS31, 5-amino-1-MQ, AOD 9604. I've used all of these with awesome success. Methylene blue will help upregulate your mitochondria and will help you burn fat, keep you lean in a surplus. So I really can't recommend that you stay away from these other fringe GH secretagogues, or I forget what exactly, GHR releasing peptides or whatever the case is. I think they all suck. I think they're all a huge, huge waste of money. I would lump MK677 in the same group. I think that's just a shitty product. What was the result of the Tren ester poll you put on Instagram a few weeks ago? So a few weeks back, I'd put a poll up on my personal Instagram about which Tren esters people had the most success with in terms of mitigating side effects or not noticing side effects, and got tons and tons of answers, which was great. It was a pretty large sample size, and interestingly enough, it was a nearly 50-50 split, where about half of the people said that they did better with tren acetate, which is a shorter ester, and about half of the people said that they did better with either tren enanthate or tren hex, which was very interesting to me because I have almost exclusively used tren acetate, and I have always been very, very sensitive to the side effects, specifically the sleep aspect of it, where it really disrupts my sleep. And I've done, even this most recent contest prep, I tried doing 5 milligrams of tren acetate per day. I was doing it every morning, so as far away from sleep as I possibly could. I was doing it daily so that it was as stable as possible. I was even doing it sub Q, being that it would take a little bit longer to permeate through the fat, and in my mind it would again make it a little bit more stable and not so quickly moving or volatile. And it still really, really messed up my sleep. So I had not used any other ester since the first time that I had run Tren, the first time I had run Tren was probably 2014 for my first contest prep. I did Tren and Nanthate. I did way too much. And, at the time, my life was just a wreck. I did the contest prep without a coach. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what to expect. Um, so in my mind, I'd always kind of just dismissed Tren and Anthate as it being crazy or terrible for side effects. When in reality, it was more so my personal life circumstance that was probably causing that. So, because of this poll and just from talking to different people and just logically thinking about it, the longer esters would be more stable. And so the past, I would say 3 or 4 weeks, probably the past 3 weeks, I've done 10 milligrams of Tren Hex, which is the longest ester of all of them. I've done 10 milligrams of that daily, and it's been excellent. I notice it in my look, I notice it in my training, and then that's the only place or the only places that I notice it. I had serious sleep issues a couple weeks ago. That was due to the carpal tunnel from what I would describe as excessive abusive GH use. I was experimenting with 20 IUs a day, and that resulted in such extreme and unbearably painful carpal tunnel that it ruined my sleep. Since then, since that has subsided, obviously my Tren use has continued, and my sleep has actually been fantastic for the last, I would say, 8 to 9 days. I've gotten just killer sleep. And so it's early and it's a small sample size, but I would say moving forward for myself, at least, I will probably look to use one of the longer esters, um, and continue to use it daily in terms of Tren use. So I got tons of questions, and oddly enough, usually I get very specific bodybuilding questions since that's really what my entire Instagram and YouTube is all about. It's always been very bodybuilding focused on all social media platforms. I really don't share much about my personal life. But for some reason, this time I got a lot of personal questions or just questions about me outside of bodybuilding. So I guess I'll answer some of these. Somebody asked, did I play sports growing up? I did. I played baseball my whole life, and I loved baseball. It was like my first love. Um, I played that all the way up through high school, and then I wasn't good enough to play in college, but my freshman year of college I played club baseball. um, and then that was really when I started to pursue bodybuilding full time. And I felt like, training my shoulders and my chest, it wasn't helping me in terms of pitching. So that was as far as I took that. I also loved playing basketball, and I played organized basketball through high school up to a certain point, up until my junior year. And then I got into a little bit of an altercation with the head coach and quit on the spot. And that was as far as I took it. But in terms of actually playing the sport, as I got older and I got into like kind of my later teen years, I enjoyed the act of playing basketball a lot more than I enjoyed playing baseball. I kind of burnt out on playing baseball as I got older because I started playing baseball at probably 5 years old or 6 years old. Any series or movies that you had high hopes for but were disappointed in after watching? To be totally honest with you, I feel this way about the majority of the movies or series that I try to watch. I'm just not a big movie person, especially. I've had some luck with series, and there's been a handful that I've really enjoyed. and watch through to the end. But for the most part, most of the time, movies, I just feel like I end up wasting 2 hours. Like even it seems like even if it's a good story and it keeps you engaged for most of the time, when the ending happens, I just feel like, man, this was such a shitty ending for the way that the rest of the movie went. So nothing really comes to my mind because I feel this way about almost everything that I watch. Um, I had really high hopes for The Irishman. That was a mob movie with De Niro and Joe Pesci and all the routine mob guys that you see. I think Al Pacino was in it or had a part in it. Um, and I love all of like kind of the OG mob movies. They're some of my favorite movies of all time. Goodfellas, The Godfather, Casino. All these movies are fantastic. And then so The Irishman came out and it was just crazy long. It was like 3 hours. And honestly, it just felt like those guys were all kind of washed in terms of acting, and the story was just too drawn out. So, is there anything outside of bodybuilding that you are into or passionate about for fun? I'm a big sports fan, even though I don't play sports anymore. Um, so I'm a big football fan. I'm a diehard New York Football Giants fan, which for the last 10 plus years has been a pretty depressing experience. I'm also a big fantasy football person. I'd like to think that I'm a pretty excellent fantasy football player. I usually play in 2 or 3 leagues a year, and I would say basically every year I end up making more money than what I put into the leagues. I mean, I don't want to say that I win every year, but typically if you make it to the finals or deep in the playoffs, there's incentives for like scoring the most points or winning X amount of playoff games or whatever. And I pretty much always end up, I would say, either winning or getting to the finals in most of them. It's something that I actually put a lot into in terms of draft research and player research and all that stuff. So that is actually something that I put a lot into, as dorky as it sounds, but I enjoy it a lot. I love fantasy football and professional football in general. I'm not a college football guy. The last couple of years I've had to pay more attention to college football just because the Giants are always drafting up at the top of the draft. So I feel like I have to kind of pay attention to who the Giants might be getting, especially in terms of quarterbacks, because we haven't had a good quarterback in a very long time. Um, Otherwise, it actually is also kind of dorky, but I bowl. And that's something I'm not in a league or anything, but I have my own stuff. I have a ball, I have my own shoes, and my fiance Kelsey and I, we go pretty often, um, because it's something enjoyable and it's something that doesn't have anything to do with like going out to eat, or we're not going out drinking or anything like that. So that came to be because I one of my best friends in high school was a baseball player with me. We grew up playing baseball together, and his dad coached one of our baseball teams. Separately, the two of them also bowled competitively and in leagues. And my friend's father was the head bowling coach of like a rival high school. And every year growing up, he would say to me, like, I wish I could get my hands on you for bowling, because knowing I grew up pitching mostly for baseball. And so he would say, like, if you could pitch, you could bowl. And I used to just like roll my eyes and kind of make fun of it. And then going back, like I said, when I quit or got kicked off basketball, that was a winter sport. And so the athletic director for our high school wanted me to do something to stay out of trouble and stay involved so that it didn't compromise my ability to be allowed to play baseball. that coming spring. So I ended up joining the bowling team, and sure enough, my friend's dad was right. I ended up just being pretty good at it right away. And so that's continued. I don't, like I said, I haven't been in a league in a long time, but I'm pretty good. When I go, for example, I'm pretty pissed off if I don't throw at least 200. I've had some pretty awesome high games. Yet to throw a perfect game, which would be 300. I've thrown 289 as my highest game, which was the first 10 strikes. And then on the 11th ball, I threw a nine and then I missed the spare. So that was 289. And then at one point last year, Kels and I went bowling and I threw the first two frames as a strike. Third frame, I threw a nine with a spare. And then I think I threw whatever the rest that is, nine straight strikes. And that ended up being 279 or 276, something like that. But typically when I go, I'm looking to throw 200 at least. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, bodybuilding is my life. I mean, my own bodybuilding makes up my schedule. I schedule my whole life around my bodybuilding, and then I coach full time and put everything that I have into my clients. Any one of my clients will tell you when they check in, I answer within 5 minutes most of the time, unless they check in after I go to bed. So, and that's with training videos, questions. Like I'm on my phone more than I care to admit, and that's just because I'm constantly in touch with my clients. Is there any bro science you see in real life or believe that works? I think most of the bro science that has garnered long term attention or credence has done so because it works in real life. Like, for example, fasted cardio, I think is a no brainer for people that, especially people that are competing, especially for people that are enhanced. I think fasted cardio should be a no brainer, no doubt part of contest prep. I think it's even awesome in the off season. The years that I've continued it into the off season, my appetite is always better. I stay leaner. My insulin sensitivity stays better, and it's just an awesome way to start your day. Um, I don't know if it would qualify as bro science, but in terms of like PED use, I think more is better up to a certain point. Um, I have reached a point where I think there are diminished returns at certain thresholds for PEDs. Like for me, I had tried like 3 grams of gear, and I just didn't notice anything in terms of benefit more than like anywhere from like 2.2 to 2.5 grams a year. I think is an awesome sweet spot. That's where I make like tons of progress. I feel great. Progress and training are insane. Libido's through the roof, and my health markers are awesome there as well. And then I think like with GH, people say as much as you can afford, which is true, but the other caveat of that is, as I've seen personally, as much as you can handle. Um, and unfortunately, I found my threshold where too much is super detrimental because it will just flat out ruin your sleep if you get the same type of side effects that I get. So, um, being that I did share my experience with how that very high dose of growth hormone just completely ruined my sleep for 2 weeks. Um, I got a lot of messages from people sharing their experience, how much they can take, what their side effects are like. I had some guys message me and say, "Hey, I can run 20 and it's no problem." And then I had some guys say, "Man, I get crazy carpal tunnel from 5 IU's." So it just depends on how much you can run. But I would say with GH, it comes down to how much you can afford and how much you can handle. For me, an off season, like growing phase sweet spot, when I think back and reflect on all my notes and go through everything, 8 has always been the highest that I can run without any negative side effects. And that's a big dose. That's a ton. So to me, that seems to be the marker. Even like the difference from going from 8 to 10 usually brings on carpal tunnel for me. So, but yeah, more is generally better, depending on like what you can handle, like health wise and budget wise. Um, I would also say that more is better in terms of training volume, which is kind of bro science. But I think again, it's just what can you handle and what can you recover from. So I think up to a certain point, more is better. If you're going in and trying to do like 40 sets per session with intensifiers and drop sets and you're training 6 days a week, that's just not sustainable. So when I am like putting together my own training or stuff for clients, like part of the feedback that I'm trying to get is like, how much can you recover from and what can you handle? Not just within one session or 1 week, but think about the next 8 weeks or the next 12 weeks. Like, what can I replicate over a longer period of time? Because that's where the progress is going to be. Um, Bro science wise, I mean, I think test is best, especially when you're trying to grow. I would say pretty much test is best all year because then, like, in contest prep, high test is going to keep fullness, it's going to keep training. Depending on what you're doing with aromatase inhibitors, it will keep your sex drive, which will probably keep your life a little bit more normal during contest prep. But yeah, in general, I think a lot of bro science ends up being what actually works in real life. I think bulking, in terms of like having to drive a big calorie surplus, is absolutely needed. If you're trying to make big leaps in size and you're trying to be a competitive bodybuilder that grows weight classes or dramatically improves body parts or dramatically improves your overall silhouette, it's not going to happen by spending long periods of time at maintenance or spending long periods of time being really lean. Like you have to drive calories up and you have to be bigger to be bigger. Like, if you've only been 230 pounds in the off season and then that's led to you being, 195 pounds on stage, if you want to be 210 pounds on stage, you're going to have to be 250 pounds or 260 pounds in the off season. Um, that's common sense to me, but I think to a lot of these people now, they think that, or they say that a calorie surplus is not needed or it's a waste of time, but I beg to differ. Any hot takes about your favorite sports teams or leagues? So like I said, I'm a diehard Giants fan. I'm a diehard New York Yankees fan. Um, diehard New York Rangers fan as well. I would say the Giants and the Rangers are the two top teams that I have an attachment to. And then to a lesser extent, I'm a Knicks fan, but they just have caused me too much misery over the years. I can't invest my time into them anymore. Any hot takes? Not really. I'm just praying that eventually Jackson Dart is really good for the Giants. I would love nothing more than if him and Malik Neighbors were Giants, and had success for the next 10 years. That'd be awesome. Um, any other hot takes? I mean, about the Yankees, I'm just really sick. No disrespect. I know the kid's trying. Um, and it stinks to be criticized, but I think that the Yankees need to pull the plug on the Anthony Volpe experience. I know that he might have been injured this year or whatever the case is, but I think the kid just kind of stinks, to be honest with you. Do you have any experiences with ephedrine? I do. I think it works great. I think it's awesome, like in a fat loss phase, especially if someone doesn't do well with Clen. Clen is like a very long half life. It's like 30 something hours, depending on where you get your information. And that can disrupt sleep for people, especially in prep. So ephedrine is a similar action. I'm going to say loosely a similar action, but a much shorter half life. So it's kind of in and out. I would say for most people, 25 milligrams in the morning is going to be all that you need or all that most people can handle. There's been times where I've been in contest prep and done 25 milligrams two different times, like first thing in the morning fasted and then again prior to training. That can be good too. There are times during that contest prep where I, like, let's say I didn't have fasted cardio the morning that I was going to do legs. So then I would just take all 50 milligrams of ephedrine prior to training legs. And every single time that I did that, I ended up throwing up. So I would not recommend that. Low libido and high E2 on 100 milligrams of test twice per week. What can I do? So this guy's doing 100 milligrams of test split, or I guess he's doing 100 milligrams twice per week. So 200 milligrams total. And let's say he's doing Monday, Thursday. He's got low libido and high E2. What can I do? A lot of these hormone clinics, especially if like that's who you're going through for your TRT, they're going to try and put you on either Arimidex or Aromacin. Before you go do that, I would recommend that you do your shots daily. For the same weekly dosage, I've seen research where they had two groups. One group did, let's say, 200 milligrams split as two shots per week, and then the other group did 200 milligrams split as daily shots. The group that did daily shots ended up with higher total and free testosterone, lower E2, and lower blood pressure. So I think that added stability by doing your shots daily leads to a whole host of benefits. So before you go adding more drugs to counteract the drugs that you're already taking, I would just take the drugs that you're currently taking in a better way. So I would do your shots daily. Um, from there, even before adding an actual aromatase inhibitor, I would consider adding 1,000 milligrams of calcium D glucarate and or DIM. NutriBio makes an awesome combination product where it's calcium D glucarate and DIM together. I would take 2 capsules of that every day before I would take an aromatase inhibitor. 6 weeks out, and my coach consistently answers 3 or 4 days after I check in. Should I switch coaches? I'm not looking to bash anybody or try to self promote or whatever the case is, but 3 or 4 days to answer, even in the off season, I think is a fireable offense. I think that's crazy. Um, I can't believe how often I hear people that are leaving another coach, they come sign up with me, or they're just getting on a consult call to kind of consider me as a coach. I'm blown away by how often I hear, especially from like big name coaches, that this is how they operate. Um, to me, I hear of sometimes like coaches or people will say that their coach answers every 3 or 4 days in the off season, and then they're more on it, or they become more of a priority in contest prep. If that's acceptable to you, then by all means. But to me, I think it should be about 24 hours in the off season, and then no matter what, it should always be same day in contest prep. That's how I do things. For my lifestyle people or off season people, there are times that I answer about 24 hours later. Like if someone checks in late on a Monday, I will usually answer them Tuesday morning. Um, Anyone that has ever gone through a contest prep with me, they will tell you that I answer same day, often within an hour, because I'm up early and I know that being in contest prep, you're going to be up early too. And if we need to make changes, like I need those changes to start today. Um, so back to the question, should I switch? I would switch. Yeah, absolutely. Like I wouldn't accept this in the off season. So if you're 6 weeks out from a contest and someone's answering you every 3 or 4 days, I would switch because that to me um, tells me that when it's crunch time, peak week, 1 day out, show day, this person is just not to be relied upon. This to me sounds like somebody that is liable to sleep in on show day and miss you going on stage, which has become a hot topic recently on Instagram in the coaching space. If you know, you know. I'm not going to say any names, but recently there's been a coach that I've known and people from New Jersey or, that kind of Northeast area have known that this guy could give a fuck less about most of his unknown competitors, um, and only makes it a point to pay attention to like his influencers or high level competitors. And this has been a known thing for years and years and years. And he still gets a huge following, gets a huge roster. I don't know how. Um, and then recently he got called out publicly. So again, I'm not going to say names, but if you know, you know. That's what this sounds like to me because that person has a known reputation to answer people 4 or 5 days later, a week later, not even answer, send a thumbs up when you check in, like crazy. Top 5 peptides for off season or prep. I think off season wise, it's way, way less. I mean, technically growth hormone and insulin are both peptides. So I would put those 1 and 2. I think MOTS-C could be a good peptide, either prep or off season. Um, I don't have a ton really for the off season. I mean, I don't know if methylene blue is technically a peptide or a small molecule. I'm not sure. I think you can use that like pre-training um, all year. I don't think it should be daily, but a couple times a week or maybe before legs. I don't know that I can even come up with 5 for the off season, to be honest with you. For contest prep, peptides, I would say the fat loss peptide stack for pre-contest should be growth hormone, SLU, MOTS-C, SS31 could be in there. Like I said, methylene blue could be in there. And then depending on how far out you are, I would consider SS31. I would consider 5 amino 1MQ when you're already very lean and close to the show. Like I waited until I was about 6 weeks out. I put that in and then I was ready like 10 days later, unexpectedly. So, like I said, I think AOD is great. I guess going back, BPC 157 could be used all year. Awesome peptide, probably one of the best. Of course, Retatrutide. I don't know how I forgot that, but that's definitely a peptide that I will use all year. I've seen incredible game changing results from it for contest prep. where it just completely took my mind off of contest prep. It was like contest prep suddenly just happened in the background as my life happened. I wasn't food focused. I wasn't hungry. And fat loss happened at a way quicker rate, way easier rate for me. And then running it in the off season, it's been incredible for blood glucose management, especially and even on really, really high amounts of growth hormone and tons of food. So to me, yeah, I think Retatrutide and growth hormone are all year. Do you think all of these peptides will make it so people can bodybuild healthier? I do. I got my blood work done 2 weeks post show, and that was after running an aggressive, very aggressive drug protocol for my peak week of my show. And then I did bloods 2 weeks later, and my blood work has literally never looked better. So, hearing and seeing all the results on blood work, especially from Retatrutide, from MOTS-c, and from SS31, I'm not sure how much SLU does for blood work. It's tough to say, but those other three for sure have incredible health benefits besides like performance or physique enhancements. So, um, absolutely. And I think this is something like the idea that, you have to sabotage your health in order to grow or in order to prep. And then you use a cruise period like to get your health back. I think that's way outdated or just a terrible approach. Like you should be healthy on cycle. Of course, if you're 1 week out and pushing things aggressively, if you get your blood work done, it's not going to be excellent. Maybe it will be with all these peptides, but that's 1 week out of the year. I think in general, you should be healthy and your cycles or most aggressive protocols should still be leaving you in good health. Off-season cycle, just as much test as you can tolerate, an AI, boatloads of GH in lieu of shortage. I don't love this. I mean, I think high tests should be the baseline of it. I think as much GH as you can afford and tolerate, like I talked about, should be a baseline of it. But also, I used to hear the pros or the big guys that did talk about gear. They would all kind of talk about a sweet spot for test, and it seems like most of them said that they landed somewhere between 1,000 and let's say 1,500 milligrams of tests per week as a sweet spot. And a lot of times I didn't believe that. I felt like a lot of them were lying or doing more. And then from my own experience now, I feel like I've landed on exactly the same range. About 1,000 milligrams of test for me is fucking awesome. Perfect. I went up to 1,250 and I didn't really notice any difference. I went up to 1,400. I didn't really notice any difference. So then I'm possibly bringing on more side effects or more just oxidative stress that my body has to tolerate. And then I'm like burning through more product, which budget wise to me, it doesn't make much of a difference. But that's going to be a consideration for a lot of people. So to me, I think you should find that top end range for both of those tests and GH. What can you afford? What can you tolerate as a consistent amount? And then there are plenty of other things that you can add in, like talking about a shortage. I've only really seen that with DHT drugs. And to be honest with you, I've drifted away from using those in the off season, especially anyway. I think Primo sucks, whether there's a shortage or not. I think it sucks. I think it's overpriced and I think it's weak. I am seeing no shortage at all and no issues with authenticity, no issues with affordability of EQ or nandrolone. So I think that combination of all of those drugs can get you absolutely enormous if you're on top of it with your food and your training and your health all year. I think test, EQ, and GH alone could get you enormous. You bring in a low dose of Retatrutide, stay on top of your health supplements, stay on top of your blood pressure, and that combination alone could turn you into an ox. Intensifiers, rest pause, drop sets, etc. When to drop them out in a cut or prep. Yeah, I think these are great. I've definitely, I don't want to say flip flopped, but my thoughts about them over time have evolved and changed and gone back and forth. Right now, I'm enjoying and doing um, both rest pause and drop sets as part of my training. I'm in a surplus. I'm eating a lot of food. I'm taking a lot of drugs. My body weight is up at a high range for me. So, and my sleep has been good, thankfully, thank God. So I can recover from these things. When to drop them in prep, I think it depends. I'm not going to put like a week range on it. I think it depends a lot more on your recovery and how lean you are. So, like, if you're behind at 7 weeks out, then me saying that intensifiers should come out at 7 weeks out probably doesn't make sense, because if you're behind, that means that your body fat is still fairly high, and that should mean that your sleep is still pretty good. So you could continue to do them. On the flip side, if you're 4 weeks out and you're already like stage peeled, that would be a good time to stop doing intensifiers and just move to straight sets. So it depends. I mean, if you are getting killer sleep and using a ton of PEDs and not having to do a crazy amount of cardio, and you're already in great shape at 4 or 5 weeks out, I would say for the most part, they could stay in. I wouldn't start adding things. Um, no matter what, I would say at 2 or 3 weeks out, if you're on pace to be ready or already ready, there's just no benefit to doing intensifiers at that point. 2 or 3 weeks out, just pull them out. Just do your straight sets, get your workouts in an hour, and then get home and recover and let the drugs, the deficit, the cardio, let all of that do what needs to be done. Like, you're almost home. So it doesn't need to be crazy at that point. Thoughts on bioglutide for when it releases? So bioglutide, it sounds like, is basically a oral drug that is all three of the actions that retatrutide offer plus IGF. And the idea behind that is that um, it enhances muscle preservation as you use the triple agonist GLP to lose body fat and body weight. I am incredibly skeptical of this. Um, so I haven't found or read or heard with any certainty what form of IGF it's going to be. And I'm pretty tuned in. I mean, I have a pretty good relationship with the owners and the formulators at BioLongevity Labs. They're working on this right now, and I still haven't really gotten a straight answer on like what type of IGF is going to be used in this. And then also with the fact that it's oral, I am just so skeptical of it, both in terms of the IGF and the GLP aspects of it. Um, if you know anything about peptides, you know that bioavailability is way less with anything that's oral. There's very few peptides that are more bioavailable or offer good bioavailability oral compared to injectable. And so as they've developed these different GLP drugs, it was semaglutide, then tirzepatide, and then retatrutide. We have seen that every time they've added an action, it has actually reduced the effectiveness of the prior actions. So, like semaglutide was pretty much just the slowing of gastric emptying, which led to like major appetite suppression. And then when they added an action and made it tirzepatide, it reduced that effectiveness slightly in the name of adding another action. And then the same thing when moving to retatrutide. There's a lot of people that say they get little to no appetite suppression from retatrutide compared to tirzepatide or semaglutide. So to me, every time an action has been added, there's been a reduction in how effective all of them are. So to me, adding a fourth, I guess, action or aspect of it and making it oral, I'm just very skeptical. To me, I hear about this and read about this, and I'm getting this already. I'm injecting retatrutide and getting incredible results, and I'm injecting bioidentical 191 amino acid growth hormone. So I'm getting all the IGF response that I need. So I'm just very skeptical, especially like the thought of oral IGF. Like, is it IGF DES? Is it IGF LR3? Is it Increlex? And if it's Increlex, how effective is oral Increlex compared to injectable? And if it is Increlex, this product is going to cost thousands of dollars. The price is going to be astronomical. So to me, I just have no interest. I'm really enjoying injectable retatrutide and injectable HGH. Um, so I'm not in a rush to go try this or recommend it. I'm not in a rush to be a guinea pig for it. To be totally blunt, I have no interest in using this. You never want to say never, but with this, I would pretty much say never. Like, I'm going to get the benefits that this is supposed to offer, um, basically from like the direct sources. Best testosterone to EQ ratio for the off season. EQ is pretty unique, especially in the way that it seemingly modulates E2 for people. And so I would start cautiously. I would start 1 milligram of testosterone to half a milligram of EQ. So just for even numbers, if you're going to start with 500 milligrams of test, I would start with 250 milligrams of EQ. I have heard and seen people that work up to a 1-to-1 ratio, 500 milligrams of test to 500 milligrams of EQ. It's just going to be totally dependent on you and the response that you get to both of these drugs. So for me, I've pretty much landed on that like 1 milligram of test to a half a milligram of EQ as being a sweet spot for me. Outside of the basics, what are your favorite exotic cheat meals? I don't really know what someone would consider exotic. I'm a big food person. I love to eat. I've even had like pretty outrageous what would be probably considered binge eating habits when it comes to like cheat meals. Like I can just eat an enormous amount of food, especially when it comes to shitty food, especially if I'm like just out of a show or at the tail end of a diet or something. So, you know, you name it, I can eat it. I could go to, like, for example, post show. I love IHOP or a diner because I can get everything. I can get a burger, a milkshake, pancakes, French toast, an omelet, a burrito, and I will eat all of it. I love cookies. I love baked goods. So, I mean, exotic cheat meal, I don't really know what that means. I love breakfast foods. I love sushi. I love pizza. I might only eat pizza twice a year. Um, but if you told me that I could never have pizza again, I would be fucking devastated because once or twice a year, I'm going to need to smash some pizza. And especially, I'm from New Jersey and I've lived most of my life in New Jersey. I live in Florida now. So, being that I don't have access to real deal pizza, um, man, I could take down some Domino's. Like, I could destroy some shitty corporate pizza. What do you think your routine will be like when you retire from bodybuilding? I will always bodybuild, and I will always take care of myself. Uh, I will for sure not train legs anywhere to the capacity that I have during bodybuilding. I could foresee that leg day when I'm retired will just be machines or like circuit work where I do like hamstring curls, extensions, and lunges, stuff like that. I'm not going to hack squat crazy. I'm probably not going to leg press crazy, or maybe I'll do leg press as part of circuits or super crazy high reps with, one or two plates aside, something like that. But leg training is going to be way, way different. And I will probably think about training in general just differently, more so as like calorie burn and sweat inducing more so than like muscle building. So again, like circuit training, supersets, giant sets, stuff like that. In terms of routine, I'll always eat on some type of meal plan. That's a big anchor for my life. I feel like I need to have some type of structure, and I just wouldn't know what to do with myself if I was just winging it every day. And being that I do love to eat, I would probably be a fat fuck. I would probably eat crazy if I just had no structure. So, I mean, when I'm like retired, I could see myself continuing a training plan, continuing a cardio routine that would include both like step counting and hit intervals. Um, and then I could see myself probably, especially like if at that point Kels and I have kids, and I have a family, I could see myself doing like set meal plans that are pretty low carb, like Monday through Friday, let's say, and then just being a regular person on Saturday and Sunday. And if I want to have breakfast, I want to have barbecue, we're doing pizza night or whatever the case is, I will just be a regular person on the weekends. What have you found to not be worth overthinking? Is there anything that's worth overthinking? I think in terms of bodybuilding for the off season or for lifestyle, there's like five things that actually matter. So you want to train and train hard and train progressively. So that's one. You want to get your food in. That's two. You want to get your cardio and your steps in. That's three. You have to sleep and recover and take rest days. That's four. And then if you're enhanced, you got to take your drugs and be consistent with them and not miss them. I would say drugs and health supplements. So that's five things that really matter for off season and then for average lifestyle people. Those are the only things that matter. Nothing else matters. So in the off season, or if you're a lifestyle person, like if you're on a meal plan and your meal says 200 grams of rice and you measure it out, scoop it out, and it comes out to 202 grams of rice, it doesn't matter. It truly does not matter at all. Um, in contest prep, those things do matter. So you have to dial it up a little bit in contest prep. I would say, as examples for things that aren't worth stressing about in contest prep, Um, I think 0 calorie drinks or artificial sweeteners are something that people freak out about, and there's no reason for it. I personally am not someone that's going to drink a diet drink that has, say, 10 calories on it, because there are just so many diet drink options that are 0 calories. So, diet sodas, I use Propel packets all through contest prep. Almost 100% of the water that I drink in contest prep has Propel packets in it. And I've seen from wearing like this constant or continuous glucose monitor, there is zero effect on blood sugar from those packets. In the off season, I'll drink like Skittle water packets or Dole water packets, any of these things that are 5 or 10 calories. Again, zero issue on blood sugar, but the calories for me, I'm not going to do that in contest prep. Um, like these low or no calorie sauces, off season lifestyle, I would use them freely. And then for contest prep, I would make sure that you are weighing and measuring them and have like a non negotiable standard with them. So if like one serving of Flavor Gang sauce is 15 grams and it's 5 calories, weigh it to 15 grams and have a deal with yourself that you are only going to do this for 3 meals or whatever the case is. Um, but I would say most of this little shit that people stress and worry about are not worth it. Like the best bodybuilders are the most chill bodybuilders. I have seen that over and over again, almost to the point that some of the best bodybuilders that I know are complete idiots. Like they're just so carefree that you almost think that they're dumb because they're just not stressed. They're just not going to worry about the little shit. And especially when it comes to getting ready for a contest, and especially when it comes time to like peak for a contest at the end, whether it's 200 grams or 205 grams of rice on your meal at 3 days out matters way less than you stressing about it. The only thing that I ever see that consistently ruins someone's effort during contest prep in a final week or the final days before a show is stress. Are there any out of the box music choices that you like for training? Okay, so outside of the box, like outside of the basics, metal, rock, rap, stuff like that. I like instrumentals, especially like Hans Zimmer type instrumentals, like so like the score from the Batman trilogy or Interstellar. It seems like a lot of the Christopher Nolan movies are they have great like instrumental scores, and I'll listen to those. Um, it sounds goofy as hell, and I'm not just saying this to sound like counterculture or anything, but there are a handful of Adele songs that I actually love for like really big sets because they don't get me crazy charged up, but they will get me to like an 8 instead of like a 10 out of 10. They'll get me to like an 8, but it's more that it hits like an emotional chord for me more so than just like a raw psycho type of vibe. So there's a couple of those songs that I like. Skyfall is one of them. Recommended starting dose for off-season Retatrutide dosing. I have terrible cholesterol but poor appetite normally. So okay, I see the double-edged sword here. Um, Retatrutide can absolutely cause life-changing improvements to your cholesterol. But if you're also like trying to push food and push size and you have a poor appetite to begin with, you got to be careful. I would start at 1 milligram and I would space it either twice or 3 times a week. So I would do a half a milligram Monday, Friday, or I would do, a third of a milligram Monday, Wednesday, Friday, something like that. That I have seen will absolutely cause incredible changes to your blood work and your cholesterol specifically. Um, and then spacing it, it seems that there's not quite as much appetite suppression as the recommended like single weekly shot. All right, this is the last one I'm going to do. I feel like this has been quite a while. At your level, do you struggle seeing condition fade post show, and how do you deal with it? Firstly, I don't necessarily want to say or speak like I'm at any type of level. I mean, I'm not winning the Olympia, so I'm just a regular guy that likes to bodybuild, like anybody that would listen to this video. Um, I mean, I have been doing this for a long time, so I guess that's maybe what the question was referring to. After so many years doing this, do I still struggle with this? I would say every year it gets better. And more so the past 3 or 4 years, I have really seen the benefits of prioritizing size and trying to get big with good food. And so, in my heart of hearts, if I know that I'm nailing the plan and I'm not binging, I'm not cheating on my diet, any of that stuff, I don't have any problem seeing the conditioning fade. I don't have any problem seeing the scale go up because I know that I'm following the plan. And so, the moment that I get off stage, the whole idea is to be bigger and better. And that doesn't happen by maintaining stage conditioning or keeping my weight low. In the past, definitely something that I've struggled with, but I think now that I think about it, it's more so I have struggled with this when I wasn't nailing the plan. Like if I cheated on my diet after the show, or, not even cheated on my diet, but let's say I got one cheat meal a week or one free meal a week post show, and then I turned that into like just a crazy binge or just way, way overate. And then I would see the scale go way up. I would see the conditioning fade and I would look super soft. And then I would feel shitty. I would feel guilty because I know I had fucked up. I know that I caused this myself. But I think if you just understand that, the idea once you finish the contest, the idea is to be bigger. And to do that, you have to get back to a level of body fat where your training is awesome and your sleep is awesome. Like once you get to a low level of body fat, your sleep sucks. And it often takes weeks and weeks to get it back. So it really just comes down to you being honest with yourself and staying on plan. And I think if you are doing that, there should be no issue with seeing the scale go up or the conditioning fade. All right, guys, that's everything. That's where I'm going to cut it. So, um, you can check out. I think I'll probably either in the description or maybe in a comment below the video. I'm going to try and timestamp this for you guys. Thanks to everybody that checked it out, that watched. If you watched the whole thing, I appreciate it. Leave me a comment, like the video. Let me know what you think. Share it. Send it around with a friend. The big one, man, I always appreciate when somebody will like take a screenshot of it and share it on their story or let people know that they watch this. That's huge. So thanks again. And until next time, guys, I'm out.